Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
We're brought to you in part by Seat Giants. Stop paying U.S. dollars for games and concerts. Canadian-owned and operated with Canadians in mind. Super Bowl, college football, Taylor Swift, Justin Timberlake. They've got it all. Use the promo code RPShow for 15% off at checkout. Check him out at seatgiant.ca. The man, the myth, Arash Madani joins us to talk about all of the topics we've talked about today, but not the goofy ones. Arash, good to see you, my dude. And we're going to jump right in because time is precious, as you know. The National Football League GMs and coaches meeting here in Palm Beach. The Tush push vote was supposed to be today. It's been put off. I'm dying to know your take on this phenomenon, the NFL, the Tush push.
Well, what shocked me, Roddy, is that there was a report, I think, from CBS that said it was effectively 50-50, that 16 of the owners voted in favor of banning the brotherly shove, the tush push, the whatever you want to call it, and the others remain on board. I didn't realize it was this contentious. I wonder if the Eagles hadn't won the Super Bowl. I wonder if Philadelphia wasn't in the game at all, if this would even be brought up. You know, if you can't beat them, join them, but they can't stop it, so you're trying to remove it. My only surprise with this wasn't that it was brought up, wasn't that it was voted on, is that it became this kind of contentious this quickly. So that's what really stood out to me.
Well, what stood out to me is you being the Canadian football statesman, if I may. This move, this tactic has been banned in Canadian football forever. It's called tandem blocking. You know, CFL rules are ahead of the NFL in a lot of ways, and this is one. I don't get why it was never tried in the NFL before this, and why it wasn't banned if it's so egregious.
I just think the difference between the Canadian game and the American game when it comes to this rule especially is you think about the yard off the ball, Roddy. You know, effectively in the NFL, they're trying to just get that yard. With the CFL, because that yard is given up, that's why kind of in the interior, in that meat grinder of an area, in the A gap and the B gap, that's where the difference is. The other thing that may not get as much pub in all of this is that replay assist has been expanded in the NFL. To me, this is just opening up a can of worms that doesn't need opening. It's just going to make things more convoluted. It's going to make things more controversial. It's going to make coaches apoplectic, and it's going to leave fans. It's the Mike Holmgren line. 50 guys sitting at a bar. What do they think? What's common sense? What's basic? What's smart? And this is just opening up a whole lot of gray in a sport that needs to be a little more black and white. You're in bounds, you're out of bounds. It's roughing the passer, it's not. It's PI, it's not. This is now leaving too much open to interpretation.
Yeah. The thousands of hours have been devoted to this. I just can't believe it, but it's the off season. And they are staying in the news. You and I marveled on that on the phone yesterday. Like the quarterback carousel has been particularly fascinating. The game of musical chairs, and Aaron Rodgers is still prancing around. There's one chair left, maybe two.
And I think he's going to end up there.
Yeah,
I think he's going to end up in Pittsburgh. I think I saw a report from one of the Rooneys talking to a Pittsburgh reporter today, who basically said all signs are pointing in that direction, which makes sense. It is musical chairs. Now, are the Steelers going to go draft a quarterback? Sure. It was Art Rooney II, Jerry Dulac from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. This was his report. Has a good feeling about Aaron Rodgers, and the signs are pointing in that direction. That's the quote, pointing in that direction of him signing with the Steelers. But here's the question, Rod. A few years after drafting Kenny Pickett in the first round, will Pittsburgh go down that road again? Are they going to trade up? Are they going to sit there in the first round and go after somebody in this draft? I think that's really intriguing, because this is not an organization that has really invested first-round picks in that position. Of course, Roethlisberger lasted for them forever. But outside of him, It's Pickett, and I think Cordell Stewart may have been a first-round pick. Not a ton in the history of that franchise.
Well, you don't even really hear anymore about the 2021 first round. Not anymore like we did the Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Eesh. It ain't the road to Canton there, Arash.
No, and like keep going, right? Like that's the point in all this. And Rod, we could dissect all those things, Zach Wilson, good Lord. But the Trey Lance move, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan thinking they had the next Josh Allen, hell bent in their belief in that. That is ultimately what has led to a number of short-circuiting, short-sighted moves by that organization to try and justify it. And the last brushstroke to this, Rod, is they're going to end up giving Brock Purdy a lot more money than they probably should, because they have to say, we took him in that same draft. We salvaged that draft when they think about kind of presenting that to ownership.
Well, there is a thing called luck in sports. I don't know where I fall on the side of that. They say the harder you work, the luckier you get. Maybe there was some luck involved that Brock Purdy took him to a Super Bowl. It's their deal to fill out. Before I go to baseball, do you have any more NFL or, dare I say, CFL notes before we move on?
Rod, it's the first day of April and the CFL is without a commissioner. Teams go to training camp next month. Well, I just wonder, these last 4 months, what progress has the league made on the business side in anything? Just remaining status quo. What are they doing? This is valuable time being wasted. I get you want to do your due diligence. I get you want to make sure you find the right person. But they decided 6 months ago that they were done with the incumbent. And the fact that it's now April, and there is nobody installed in that chair, doesn't it feel like 2025 is now effectively going to be a write-off? And that happens with a TV broadcast agreement that is vital to the lifeblood of this league, expiring at the end of 26. So that to me is of real intrigue. And my question to the governors out there is, what are you doing? Why is this taking so long? Why are you wasting valuable time? Why wasn't a more expedited, focused process put in place when you decided that you weren't going to bring Ambrosie back? I don't get it.
They must have felt, obviously they didn't have anybody in mind, right, when they made the decision on Ambrosie, and two, that they would get a wealth of tremendous applications, and maybe they have. I've heard they're down to 2 people. Hopefully we find out soon. To baseball, Blue Jays have won 3 of 5. Up and down results, always is. What's your take to this season that's not even a week old?
I'm interested to see on the pitching staff how this is all going to play out. Obviously Scherzer's now gone to see a hand specialist. He's going to be out for a little while. I just haven't been sold on their bullpen as being reliable coming into this season. Can the starting pitching hold up? 5 games is no sample size. Like I'm of the mindset of the late Sparky Anderson, who said, get to the end of May, be 500 and healthy at the 60 game mark, and then the season starts with 100 games to go. We're not discovering anything about anybody in 5 games in baseball, but I think that when you take a look at this Jays team, the pathway to victory is going to have to be from their pitching staff. There's going to be a lot of attention on Bo. There's going to be a lot of attention on Vlad, especially as pending free agents. But there wasn't a lot of margin for error in that starting staff. And now with Scherzer out, where does that leave things? I think that's a big question right now.
Jose Barrios gets to start tonight, looking to atone for opening day. I'm sure you're following the Yankees story in the torpedo bats, a MLB record amount of home runs coming out of the opening weekend. It's kind of hard to believe after 100-plus years of baseball that there's something new. But now with technology, it's kind of not that hard to believe. What's your thought on the torpedo bat phenomenon?
Yeah, and the question now is not just the torpedo bat. It's what's next and what's going to follow. And in pro sports is a copycat existence. The Yankees coach who kind of came up with this idea of the torpedo bat that's effectively a bowling pin at the barrel, which is where you want to get contact for power. He's got a background from MIT. He's a scientist. Are we going to, first we saw a lot of analytics and number crunchers entering front offices. Are we now going to see people from, and I'm not exaggerating here, Rod, and I'm not being flippant. Are the next set of hires honestly going to be from the space program? Are they going to be from engineering firms and physics kind of specialists and all those kinds of things? Because that's what this has been. What they hit 13, 15 home runs in the first 3 games, something like that. It makes a lot of sense what they did. It obviously, it falls within the rules of the dimensions of the bat. I just wonder what's next. And I don't have the first damn clue what it is and what it could be. But to me, this isn't the end. To me, this is just the start. And that's what's going to make this all so intriguing.
Yeah. And Aaron Judge yet came out of the weekend with 4 home runs, and he's not using one. Imagine if he does. Right. And I'm remiss to have not asked you about March Madness till now. We haven't spent a lot of time on it on this program. I'm not a NCAA college hoops guy, but I have a sense that you probably have an eye on it. What's your take on at least the men's side, maybe the women's?
Look, 4 number 1 seeds into the Final Four. I haven't seen that since 2008, something like that. Here's what's become interesting, Rod, is that the most marketable players in college basketball, this is now a trend, dare I say, pattern. The most marketable, the most, from an endorsement standpoint, the most valuable players in March Madness are on the women's side, and it's not even close. You think about Juju Watkins, even though she's hurt. You think about Paige Beckers. You think about, obviously, what Caitlin Clark was and what Angel Reese was and the rest. They're more identifiable stars than everybody but one in the men's tournament. Cooper Flagg's his own thing. The fact that he has a New Balance deal at a Nike school is just incredible. But from a value standpoint, from a notoriety standpoint, from an Instagram follower standpoint, from a lot of metrics, if you're the biggest star in women's college basketball, or among the biggest 5 stars in women's college basketball, you are a bigger marketing opportunity than the top player on the men's side. And that's happened in the last few years. And I don't see that changing in a one-and-done NIL transfer portal world.
Colt wants to know, we're not over time. We got about 2 to 3 minutes here, and I want to go over to get your opinion. He wants your take on the new college basketball tournament, i.e. this chalky way this has gone. The number 1 seeds all advancing. No upsets, no Cinderella stories. It's the way it is now. How do you feel about it?
Cole, I understand the question. I just give a little bit of pause on sample size here. We're still 1 year removed from NC State being a first 4 team last year, getting all the way to the Final Four. Let's not forget that. This was a year where you had powerhouses, man. Coming into the tournament, there was an argument to be made that Florida was the most complete team, that Auburn was the most explosive team, that Duke was the most dominant team, and that Houston was the most battle-tested team. So I think that we pumped the brakes just a little bit, Cole, on this being an overall thing. But Roddy, I'll also say this. What the SEC have, something like 13 teams represented in March Madness. How many of them got to the Sweet 16? We always think about the SEC as a football school. They struggled when it came to postseason football this past year. They certainly didn't struggle in basketball. Again, small sample size, but I just wonder, in a transfer portal world, when you only need, 2 or 3 players to really tip the scales, is the SEC now the destination for basketball more than it might be for football? That I think is something to keep an eye on.
It's a great answer. I follow the money. I think that this is a trend, not a fad. I think this is the way that it's going, but it is fun to follow. Enjoy the sports, my dude. Thanks for the time, Arash. Don't be a stranger.
Roddy, great to see you, bud. Thanks.
The great Arash Madani checking in from the Big Smoke. Sports update on the way and viewer takeover. Get your questions and comments now. Don't disappoint me now. It's been a great day. 902-518-3033, Progressive Insurance text line. There you go. Switch to Progressive and you could save a bunch. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.